get support for over $60 billion of emergency funding that the administration felt that they needed. And
Right.
both the Republicans and the Democrats are reticent to do so now. Maybe for the Republicans as well. Maybe for the Republicans as well.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Can I say it?
Go ahead.
Maybe for the Republicans as well. It's a case of. It's a case.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Maybe for the Republicans as well. It is a case of they're looking at the midterm elections and they don't want to appropriate any more money before the midterms. I don't know their reasoning.
Well, of course it is.
But I do know that in interviews with the media, several of them said the reason that they were not amenable to this approach to give them the money that they need is because the administration hasn't been able to give a clear-cut answer to them about what is the mission and what are you going to do with the money.
Well, let me ask you this. What if Excess goes up to the hill and says, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the Israelis. We're going to form a joint force, infantry. We're going to take over Karg Island. We're going to take over that other island. I forget the name of it. That has the supplies that comes into Iran from the outside that they funnel through.
It's called
Yeah. Okay. We're going to do that, and we're going to further take strategic spots along the coast so that we impede their ability. And this is going to be probably 100,000, 200,000 men. But we're going to go in, we're going to put our boot on their neck, and we're going to make them say uncle, and we're going to take control of that strait. That's our plan, Congress. Are you down with that? And I guarantee you, there's not one Democrat and probably very few Republicans sitting on the Hill that has the political will to match the military competence that needs to be engaged in order to do this. Of course he's going to dance up there because he can't shoot with them straight because they're a bunch of weasels that doesn't want to face reality about what it would take to win this war instead of playing ping pong with missiles across the Strait of Hormuz. You can't win a war like that. You're playing into their strength. You got to go in, put your boot on their neck, and if he'd go in there and tell them that that's what needs to be done to fully prosecute this war, Republicans and Democrats alike would turn like a bunch of weasels and run for the door. That's
there may be a bunch of weasels, but they're the people that you and I elected to Congress, and it's their responsibility to control the purse strings. So you've got to. If you want
to, Gary, it's their responsibility to be asked, okay, let's say we do nothing and we allow Iran to reconstitute their nuclear weapons, and that area of the world that is so important to world economy, they set off a couple of nuclear weapons in the Middle East and it turns into chaos, and then the world economy collapses. Are you ready for that? And they would not have a thing to say. They weasel their way out. That's the reality of what we're dealing with. That's the reality of what they're unwilling to face. And that's the reality of why we're sitting here playing ping pong across the Strait of Hormuz instead of facing the military situation the way it needs to be faced and prosecuted the way it needs to be prosecuted. And until we do that, just like in Vietnam, we'll have someone like Jane Fonda in North Vietnam when our bombing campaign was actually taking an effect on him, standing there crying about how bad the United States is. Let me tell you, war is bad. You got to tactically think it through, and you got to prosecute it tactically in a way that's advantageous to us. And if you sit there and play another guy's game, of course you're going to lose. That doesn't mean you're weak militarily. What it means is you're weak politically and you're weak as a nation to face what needs to be done. Bottom line, and that's why we're in all these situations we get into.
So why do you reckon that? Why do you reckon that the president didn't take Steve's advice? I'm not saying it sarcastically, because presumably the military experts at the Pentagon would have said, "This is what we have to do, Mr. President." Why do you reckon he didn't do that in the beginning?
Well, because Gary, he knows that he's facing a midterm. He knows he's got the political left nipping at his heels. He knows people like in our own chat that every time something goes halfway wrong, will sit there and blow it out of proportion to something that tactically is not what it is. He knows he's got a group of Republicans that don't have the spine to see this thing through like it needs to be done. War is an ugly thing. You got to prosecute it like you're mean to win it. You can't play around with it. You can't play ping pong and think you're going to win these kind of things. And
so you suggesting that the president went in with a losing strategy nonetheless?
Well, he went in and he thought he could play that game of ping pong. He thought he could decapitate the leadership and he could get out and wouldn't have to face the song and dance. But guess what? The Iranians were resilient. And now the reality of militarily what should have been done in the beginning is staring him in the face, and he has to go in front of a Congress that doesn't have the will or the political kahunas to say, hey, look, this problem needs to be solved. If it's not, in 20 years, the whole Middle East economy could collapse and could take the world economy with it too. And we run and hide from it, and we wonder why we elect these people. That's it. That's all I can say about it because it's got me fired up.
So you're suggesting that we are in this mess or quagmire, whatever terminology you want to use, because the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, miscalculated. Not because of Congress. Because remember...
Well, I'm saying he probably thought that he might be able to get away with this. But he probably was told by his generals, look, if Plan A don't work, you might have to go to Plan B. And Plan B is not the plan that is palatable to the congressman, and it's not even palatable to the citizens of this country that if you believe this is a justifiable war, that you can't even absorb $4 a gallon gas. I don't like to pay it, but if I thought that paying $4 a gallon for gas right now would save the Middle East from going into a death spiral and take the world economy with it, and my kids 20 years later wouldn't have to face it, yeah, I'd be willing to pay that $4 now to get them out of the mess that may occur in 20 years. This is insanity at its highest level.
So, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a great deal of frustration in Congress that the president started prosecuting this, claiming that he could do so without their approval for 60 days under the law, without seeking the advice and consent of Congress. So he unilaterally went in there and tried a strategy that failed. And now you want to blame Congress because that strategy failed? He's the one who extended. He's the one who expended more munitions than we have the capability of replenishing. That was Donald Trump, Commander-in-Chief.
Well, why did he do it, Gary? I just explained to you why he done it. It's not hard to follow. It's not hard to follow. If you're expending munitions at the rate we are playing ping pong across the Strait of Hormuz instead of tactically addressing this war, sure you're going to run out of buzz. They're flying cheap drones. We're shooting million-dollar missiles. That doesn't take a mathematician to figure that out. And the reason we engage in this is because of poor tactical assessment of what was going on. And in the beginning, when he decided to do this, if he had went to Congress and told them what he was going to do, with Congress' full knowledge of the potential of what Iran could do to the Middle East and vis-a-vis the world economy, they would have said no. So that's where we're at.
Well, that may be, but he didn't, in his mind, need to go to Congress, and he didn't go to Congress, and he followed the path that he followed, and he failed. So we are where we are.
What tactically in the whole analysis that I've just laid out to you is incorrect? What is wrong with Israel joining with the United States to take Carg Island? Could there be casualties? Yes. Was there casualties in World War II? Was there casualties in the Civil War? Was there casualties in the Korean War? There's always going to be casualties.
Right, but we're not discussing.
You've got to ask yourself, is it justifiable?
Right, but that's not what he decided to do. he took a different tactic that failed. So the reason we are where we are today, because he probably knew, as you know, that there are a bunch of weasels, to use your terminology, in Congress, and he could never get the money that he needed. So he had to be successful in the first 60 or 90 days, depending on how one interprets that authorization that the president could do so unilaterally, and he miscalculated. So
he miscalculated what the Iranian people would do, but he calculated into this the political will of the Congress to address the situation in the Middle East. Now, hey, if we pull out there tomorrow, we're going to have everyone saying, well, Pete Hegseth doesn't know how to run a war and Donald Trump is incompetent, blah, 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 which totally misses the point of how we prosecute this war and why. But we will also be left with this inevitable question that if we do, and no president has been able to address this problem with Iran and the instability it's going to inject into the Middle East and inevitably into the world economy, and we're sitting there with our hands over our eyes going, la, 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 like this problem don't exist. Get a freaking grip, people. Get a grip.
But see, your argument keeps obfuscating the question, and I'm gonna move on to the next person, because I'm not arguing what the proper tactics would be. If I'm your son and you give me an allowance and I go spend that money on, waste that money, I could have invested it, I could have used it, to buy transportation, to have a job, whatever. But instead I wasted it on booze, or I wasted it on girls, or I wasted it on drugs, or whatever I wasted it on. And I come back to you and I say, and I know when I come back that you're going to be my weasel dad, and you're not going to give me any more money. Is that your fault or my fault? I'm the one who miscalculated how to manage the money that I was given.
You totally ignored the ping pong analogy I give you and why we're in this situation to begin with. We're
but we're in this situation to begin with because
we will not address it properly.
Right, but you will not acknowledge, and I don't know why not, the buck stops at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This was a strategy of the President of the United States. Not a strategy of Congress. Congress wasn't even consulted.
Well, Gary, the funding stops at Congress, doesn't it? The president can only engage in the funds that he gives you. How can you drive a Ferrari when you can't get the loan? You don't think you have the funds to do to take those two islands? Well, I don't know. I think it would have probably there had been so many variables in there that you could have very well had to went back and went to Congress for more funding. Those are variables that you got to know the answer to. And if you're dealing with a group of people that doesn't have the political will to solve a problem tactically in the way that it needs to be addressed militarily, then you're fighting with two hands tied behind your back.
Do you think that if the president had sent troops on the ground, a joint operation with Israel, as you say, into those two islands, and then determined that they need more money to continue to prosecute that Congress would say, no, let those service members just hang out to dry out there? Or do you think that they would come up with the money?
Well, Gary, I can only hear the chatter right now. It's ringing through my head. That's all I got to say. This is political will. This is tactics, tactical military tactics being addressed in the proper way, and the will to prosecute an enemy. Once you've seen that decapitation doesn't work in the way we have the military might, we have the ability to do it. We lack the political and civil will to prosecute a problem that eventually is going to blow up in everyone's face. And when it does, I may not be here, but when it does, I don't want to hear anyone cry about it, because everyone knew it was here. And they turned their back and went, la, 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 la. That's it.
I don't know whether people are turning their back and going, la, la, la.
Oh, yeah, it cannot be named.
What's that, Alan?
I said, can I be next after you two finish?
Yeah. Go ahead, Alan.
Are you guys done?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm done, Alan. I'm sorry I took so long.
No, Steve. You said most of the thing. It was in my heart for a long, long time. Both of you are right. Gary is right in one area and you are right in another area. The only thing we're missing in here is they have element inside our government. They have element all over the place, and we don't have shit over there they can help us. And these people, you think Iran didn't know it's going to get to this point? These mullah, they didn't know it's going to get to this point. They didn't know the Congress is going to fight the president. President is going to fight the Congress. And then the peoples, as soon as they get pinched in the pocket a little bit, they're going to go wacko. And they are over there. Not a single Iranian can get up and say why my rent from 5 million jumped to 5 billion. They don't have that ability, but we do have. We extreme, we do. This is the part I don't understand. I'm probably never going to understand until I die. This war shouldn't be in this point. This war should be done. The first 12 days of attack cut these mullahs, these murder, hands down. And all of a sudden, President Trump says, ceasefire.
Actually learned Freudian slip because of this.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Passover.
You go in full power, you go and get in, and you're almost done, and you had 80 million people behind you. This is the part I don't understand. 80 million people. They were screaming to get rid of this regime. They were willing to help you. That's what they did to Mossad. Mossad lived in Tehran for many, many years. By themselves? No, with the help of people. And you guys, this administration bypassed that, says ceasefire, and there you go. Negotiation. You think Iranian, they didn't know? They miscalculate three things. It's not just the financial, it's not just the way it works. The biggest things they did, they had man in here, they would report him 24/7. They knew exactly where it goes, and that's where we are here now. It wasn't hard to get those two islands. That's what I don't understand. We are broke. Well, they did it. Maybe there is a reason behind it. You, Steve, don't know. I don't know. Gary don't know. Scott doesn't know. But they know it has to be something. Somebody is making a benefit of that. Because 47 years ago, they wanted to cut the Americans' hand out of that area. And they were successful by bringing Khomeini goes 3-4 months, sit on the apple trees in Paris, and then French, British, all the European. And you think now they're going to cut their own bread to help United States or Iranian, they have a free life. They don't give a damn about it. Right?
There's another part of this equation as well, and that is that it's been credibly reported that the president was advised that this tactic that he is taking will result in Iran's responding by choking off the Strait of Hormuz. And that's why he's got this political pressure on him today, because of the cost of gasoline. And it's not just the cost of gasoline, it's the effects on other countries of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. So he was told, he had the intel, he should have known that this was going to be the counterpunch. It's not just playing ping pong with Iran. The counterpunch was going to be closing the Strait of Hormuz, and they did. And now they got the Houthis claiming that they're going to close off another waterway to the Saudis. This is an expansion of this war, which is not a declared war, by the way. Thank you, Alan. We'll go to Tiger, followed by William.
It's been a while, Gary. The short thesis that I have is that the United States military would never run out of cash. And I'm going to illustrate that with a little story. 2 years ago, General Dynamics acquired one of the subsidiaries that was designated by the Congress to make the I believe M395 or 795 150 5 millimeter shells for the artillery to be used, by the cannons in mostly Ukraine. And they got some Congress funding close to $1 billion. And the promise of those shells from about 10,000 rounds per month to 300,000 a month in 2 years. They took this money and they did a report. They say there are some existing outdated production lines of the old M107 shells that is also 155 millimeter. And they purchased 3 of those production lines and claim that they can revamp the production lines and ramp up the production to meet the Department of Defense or Department of War requirements. And 2 years after that, they report that the shells that they have produced do not meet the quality standards that is required for the type of projectile.
They have not produced one shell.
They have produced some shells.
No, they have not produced a single shell. They haven't produced a single shell as required under the contract. They have not produced a single shell as required under the contract. It's worse than what you were suggesting.
You say, as required. So you know about the story, Gary. So maybe you can tell the story.
Well, we did. We discussed it yesterday, so yeah, I'm aware.
Okay. Well, the short message is that they are now asking $1 billion more of those, Congress funding. Even that General Dynamics also pledged $200 million of their own money, which they claim has already been put into the production lines. And it looks like Congress is going to fund them again. And all that money being thrown into these production lines for military hardware, if you think about it, they do 2 things. The first thing is that they line up the pockets of certain hardware. But in a way, they're also of these wars. I think one of the goals is to use the war as an excuse not only to enrich some people, but also to try to increase the productivity of the United States industrial base. And despite the fact that they have produced no usable shells after close to $1 billion of funding, in a way they're achieving that. And despite the fact that the United States is $40 trillion in debt, it is clear since the United States has the power to create liquidity out of nowhere, and when they get injected into the U.S. economy, most of that get parked in the U.S. assets. That will basically show up as appreciation of the U.S. stock market. Everybody is happy. People are getting rich. Economy numbers will look good. It's an afterthought what happens in Iran, in a sense. It's also an afterthought for this administration, at least, what will happen in the long run to the U.S. debt. And I think that's something that the American people should really be vigilant about. And after all, my assessment is that the Iran war, regardless of the result, will not advance U.S.
As long as I know that you're listening, John, I just want to share with you why I'm confused. So you can just listen. You said, I don't know everything. I admit it. especially when it comes to normativity. I don't even understand normativity, to be honest. But I had to look up what does non-normative mean with respect to wrong, and apparently non-normative just means anything that simply describes, as you said, and I understand that part. Describes, observes, or presents facts without.
Oh my god, Jacob cut his hair and took a shower. Smelling like roses. Hello? Try reading a book. Sometimes reading a book is extremely useful.
Thank you, Tiger. William, followed by Andrew.
Okay, I've got about 5 points, and some of them are brief. One of the things was cameras. We have plenty of cameras mounted on the various military platforms that we're deploying, and we've got satellite footage and all kinds of images. So if we wanted to deploy or educate the public with those images, we certainly have the material capacity to do so, and probably have safe images.
Let me just interject by saying
Next, the following text is between the points of the pentagram, starting at upper right. The words below are arced in a circle.
Now ye shall know that the chosen priest, that oxel of infinite space, is the prince, priest, the beast, and in his woman called the Scarlet Woman is all power given. They shall gather my children into their fold. They shall bring the glory of the stars into the hearts of man. 16, for he is ever a sun and she a moon, but to him is the winged secret flame. 18 burn upon their brows, O splendorous serpent. 19, O azure-lidded woman, bend upon them. 20, the key of the rituals is in the secret word which I have given unto him. These are fools that men adore, both their gods and their men of fools. 12 come forth, O children, under the stars, and take your fill of love. 13, I am above you, and in you my ecstasy is in yours. My joy is to see your joy. 14 above, the gemmed azure is the naked splendor of new wit. She bends in ecstasy to kiss the secret ardors of Hades. The winged love, the starry blue, are mine, awake if not soon. My joy is to see your joy.
I was waiting for his time to start, like a map drawn out in the dark. Now the city's calling out my name to choose a brand new path. Yeah. Tired of watching from the side while the streets and dreams collide. So I take one step with my vote. Time to change this heavy load. Maybe we don't need to know it all. Maybe we just need to vote so we keep moving anyway. Chicago, choose a brighter day. Go to Chicago, Mayor, vote for calm. Let your voice lead the way. Every choice rewires me. Every vote unlocks a key. We want tax reform today. Vote John Kitover, pave the way. Doubts still riding in our heads, but it won't get the final say. We can rise and stand as one. Bro, Chicago starting today. We don't need a perfect line, just a reason, just a sign. Every inch we claim is ours. Every step can raise the bar. Go slow, go fast, just don't go back. Trust the rhythm in this town, time to lift our future now. So we keep moving anyway. Chicago, stand up, have your say. Go to ChicagoMayElection.com. Vote John Kitover today. Every choice revives me. Every vote unlocks a key. We want tax reform right now. Bro, Chicago, rise up now.
Mine is the head of the man, and my inside is keen as the hawks. By my bed I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle, reverse the sign, given of none, save it thee, O Lord. By the Lord I invoke thee. Mine is the garment of white, sewn with gold, the flashing of day that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of Apophis and Typhoon. By the sign I invoke thee. Mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue figure of the intermediate. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers tremble on the beat of her, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. I bear the wand of double power in the voice of the Master. mine are the dark blue waves of music, the song that I made of all to implore thee. Strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword, child and conquering Lord, Horus Avenger. In my hand is thy sword of revenge, and strike at thy cheek. By the sword I hold thee. Voice of the 5, the voice of the 6, 11 are the voices. Abrahadabra.
Mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the hawks. By my head I invoked it. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoked it. About me shine the diamonds are radiant, white and pure. By their brightness I invoked it. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none. Save it me of thee, O Lord. By the Lamb and I invoke thee. Free mine is the garment of white, sold with gold. The flashing of eye that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of Apophis and Typhon. By the sign I invoke thee. For mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue vigor of the intimate. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel on the beads of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. I hear the ones of double power in the voice of the master. Abrahadabra, by the word I invoke thee. Be mine are the dark blue waves of music in the song that I made about to invoke thee. Strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword, child and conquering Lord, Horus, Avenger, by the song I invoke thee. In my hand is my sword of revenge, let it strike at thy begin, by the sword I invoke thee. The voice of the fight, the voice of the 6, 11 of the voices, Abraham,
The voice of the six. 11 other voices. Mine is the head of the six. I bear the rose and cross of life and love. Giving the sign and each remaining in the sign, the invocation concludes. Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that every spirit, whether of the firmament, or of the ether, or of the earth, or under the earth, on dry land, or in the ether, of flowing air, or of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God, the vast one might be there.
anybody else hear that definition? What y'all?
I want to ask them to actually define it. Straight to it. Like, let's just hear his definition. But based on what he was saying, I wanted to know what.
Ask me a question, Alvin. Thank you so much for that. That was a great exercise, Alvin. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. David, what's up?
Yeah, it's not a question. I just wanted to apologize for earlier on today.
Oh no, don't worry about it, David. I'm only messing around. Well, we kind of rough in here. We rough in here. Don't worry.
Yeah, Honey Badger and I have a little bit of a history, and just to kind of, because he wouldn't let me get it out, and I had to leave to go back to work. But I told him that, he just likes to be whatever. So I told him that if he has such a problem with Christianity, I mean, he needs to get up and act and curse out everybody that led him to.
Yeah, dude. He was raised a Catholic. Listen, he's doing a fallacy. He's doing the one true. You know what the one